Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me. My name is Michael. We are continuing in the reading of the Word of God. We are in the book of Joshua. I was not able to get the recording in this morning, so I'm trying to make sure to get it in at least tonight. Granted, that little 3-year-old back there plays nice for as long as I can read, so we'll see how far we get along. I'm hoping for 3 chapters. We left off last time at the beginning of chapter 5. So hopefully be able to get 5, 6, and 7 done today. Yeah, we'll see. You never know. Depends on how the little one's wanting to act and whatnot. But yeah, it's great to be here. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend and a great Monday. So we are starting with, again, chapter 5, which is the circumcision of the people. A new generation circumcised in 2 different ones. The people of Canaan had counted on Jordan's acting as a barrier against invasion of their land by the Israelites, as we'll see in verse 1 of chapter 5. Although this would seem to be the best time for Israel to strike important spiritual matters, circumcision and the Passover had to come first. As we'll see here. And then just a little further note ahead, because it's written just in the second verse: sharp knives, literal knives of flint, circumcised, the sign of faith in the covenant made with Abraham. During the wilderness experience, the rite had not been performed, the nation being under judgment now before taking possession of the land. It was necessary to circumcise all men under 38. Who were born but not circumcised during the years of wandering in the wilderness. So we'll go ahead and get started with chapter 5, verse 1. Those are the keynotes for the next couple of verses, and then we'll continue on from there. So chapter 5 reads, "As soon as all the kings of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan to the west, and all the kings of the Canaanites who were by the sea, heard that the Lord had dried up the waters of the Jordan for the people of Israel until they had crossed over, their hearts melted, and there was no longer any spirit in them because of the people of Israel. Now at the time the Lord said to Joshua, 'Make flint knives and circumcise the sons of Israel a second time.' So Joshua made flint knives and circumcised the sons of Israel at Gibeath Haraloth. And this is the reason why Joshua circumcised them. All the males of the people who came out of Egypt, all the men of war, had died in the wilderness on the way after they had come out of Egypt. Though all the people who came out had been circumcised, yet all the people who were born on the way in the wilderness after they had come out of Egypt had not been circumcised. For the people of Israel walked 40 years in the wilderness, until all the nation, the men of war who came out of Egypt, perished, because they did not obey the voice of the Lord. The Lord swore to them that he would not let them see the land that the Lord had sworn to their fathers, to give us a land flowing with milk and honey. So it was their children, whom he raised up in their place, that Joshua circumcised, for they were uncircumcised, because they had not been circumcised on the way. When the circumcising of the whole nation was finished, they remained in their places in the camp until they were healed. And the Lord said to Joshua, 'Today I have rolled away the reproach of Egypt from you.' And so the name of that place is called Gilgal to this day." Verse 9, the reproach of Egypt. The taunts leveled by the Egyptians at the Israelites for their failure to gain their promised land. That reproach had now been rolled away. Gilgal means the rolling. So continuing with verse 10, while the people of Israel were encamped at Gilgal, they kept the Passover on the 14th day of the month in the evening of the plains of Jericho. And the day after the Passover, on that very day, they ate of the produce of the land, unleavened cakes and parched grain. And the manna ceased the day after they ate of the produce of the land. And there was no longer manna for the people of Israel, but they ate of the fruit of the land of Canaan that year. Checking on the little one. And then a couple keynotes. Crops of the harvest being gathered at that time, the old corn, and the manna had sustained them for 40 years. We have not got to 13. 13 is what we're about to read. So, the commander of the Lord's army. When Joshua was by Jericho, he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, a man was standing before him with his drawn sword in his hand. And Joshua went to him and said to him, "Are you for us or for our adversaries?" And he had said, "No, but I am the commander of the army of the Lord. Now I have come." And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and worshipped and said to him, "What does my Lord say to his servant?" And the commander of the Lord's army said to Joshua, "Take off your sandals from your feet, for the place where you are standing is holy." And Joshua did so. So let's see here from 5:13. So with retreat back across the Jordan now impossible because God had closed the way of the Jordan, Joshua was preoccupied with the coming battle and so did not recognize his visitor. 5:14, Joshua worshipped the captain of the host of the Lord as Yahweh, acknowledging that this was his war and that the Israelites were but a part of the Lord's host, which also included angels and the forces of nature. 5:15, and the place is holy. Also, it was referred into Exodus 3:5 in its note. So it's a holy place. Let's see here. See how she's doing. She's just coloring. See if we can get with chapter 6. So the captain of the Lord's army in the fall of Jericho in chapter 6. Or sorry, no. I was looking at verse 13 because it had separated. It's a caption. Conquering the land of Canaan. And that which is the fall of Jericho, conquest of central Canaan, the victory at Jericho. So now Jericho is shut up inside the outside because of the people of Israel. Straightly equals tightly. And the Lord said to Joshua, "See, I have given Jericho into your hand, with its king and mighty men of valor. You shall march around the city, all the men of war going around the city once. Thus shall you do for 6 days. 7 priests shall bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark. On the 7th day you shall march around the city 7 times, and the priests shall blow the trumpets. And when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, when you hear the sound of the trumpet, then all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city will fall down flat, and the people shall go up, everyone straight before him." So Joshua the son of Nun called the priests and said to them, "Take up in the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Lord." And he said to the people, "Go forward, march around the city, and let the armed men pass on before the ark of the Lord." So verses 2 through 5, these verses record the important information the captain of the Lord of the hosts communicated to Joshua about taking Jericho. The divine plan to march around Jericho for 7 days would test Israel's faith and would accentuate the fear already present in the people of Jericho. The city covered only about 8.5 acres, making it easy to march around 7 times on the last day. And then in verse 5, every man straight before him. The wall would fall all at once, so that every person could go in at the same time. Conquest of central Canaan. Okay, so okay. And so resuming from verse 8. And just as Joshua had commanded the people, the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram horns before the Lord went forward, blowing the trumpets with the ark of the covenant of the Lord following them. The armed men were walking before the priests, who were blowing the trumpets, and the rear guard was walking after the ark, while the trumpets blew continually. But Joshua commanded the people, "You shall not shout or make your voice heard, neither shall any word go out of your mouth, until the day I tell you to shout. Then you shall shout." So he caused the ark of the Lord to circle the city, going about it once, and they came into the camp and spent the night in the camp. And then Joshua rose early in the morning, and the priests took up the ark of the Lord, and the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram horns before the ark of the covenant walked on, and they blew the trumpets continually. And the armed men were walking before them, and the rear guard was walking after the ark of the Lord, while the trumpets blew continually. And the second day they marched around the city once, and returned into the camp. So they did for 6 days. On the 7th day they rose early. Let's see here, that's verse 15. 1 second. So rearward is the rear guard, which is what I think they actually translated it to here for that. And then 6:17 we haven't gotten to yet. Okay. So on the 7th day they arose early at the dawn of day and marched around the city in the same manner 7 times. It was only on that day that they marched around the city 7 times. And at the 7th time, when the priests had blown the trumpets, Joshua said to the people, "Shout, for the Lord has given you the city. And the city and all that is within it shall be devoted to the Lord for destruction. Only Rahab the prostitute and all who are with her in her house shall live, because she hid the messengers from whom we sent. But you, keep yourselves from the things devoted to destruction, lest when you have devoted them, you may take any of the devoted things and make the camp of Israel a thing for destruction, and bring trouble upon it. But all silver and gold, and every vessel of bronze and iron, are holy to the Lord. They shall go into the treasury of the Lord. But you, keep yourselves from the things devoted to... Wait, that's what you're saying. Sorry, lost place until... Okay, so verse 20, so I did read. Okay. So the people shouted, and the trumpets were blown. As soon as the people heard the sound of the trumpet, the people shouted a great shout, and the wall fell down flat, so that the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they captured the city. So reference back to 6:17, accursed. The same Hebrew word, harem, is translated utterly destroyed. In verse 21, it means to ban, destroy, or devote, in the sense of belonging to a god, or as here, to the true God. Jericho was completely devoted to God as the first fruits of Canaan, and no booty was to be taken by the people. So everything in the city was supposed to be given over to God. When the wall fell down flat, it may originally have been as high as 30 feet. The part of the wall in which Rahab's house was built did not collapse. Some interpreters claim that an earthquake caused the destruction. If so, it was a remarkable miracle of timing and localization, since the camp at Gilgal, a little more than a mile away, and Rahab's house remained intact. All right, resuming for verse 22. But to the men who had spied out the land, Joshua said, "Go into the prostitute's house and bring out from there the woman and all who belong to her, as you swore to her." So the young men who had been spies went in and brought out Rahab and her father and mother and brothers and all who belonged to her. And they brought all her relatives and put them outside the camp of Israel. And they burned the city with fire and everything in it. Only the silver and gold and the vessels of bronze and of iron they put into the treasury of the house of the Lord. But Rahab the prostitute and her father's household and all who belonged to her, Joshua saved alive. And she has lived in Israel to this day, because she hid the messengers from whom Joshua sent to spy out Jericho. Joshua laid an oath on them at that time, saying, "Cursed before the Lord be the man who rises up and rebuilds this city Jericho. At the cost of his firstborn shall he lay its foundation, and at the cost of his youngest son shall he set up its gates." So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame was in all the land. And so referencing back to 6:26, the curses relates to rebuilding Jericho as a fortified city, not to inhabiting it, and was fulfilled in Hiel around 870 BC, which we'll see in 1 Kings. And better, at the cost of, or at the cost of. So we'll go ahead and stop reading there at the end of chapter 6 and resume tomorrow morning at the beginning of chapter 7, hopefully getting through 7, 8, and 9. But as we continue through this, Joshua's book is only 24 chapters, so we are definitely getting a chunk through it. Wonderful information and reading through here. I do appreciate you joining me with this. I hope you have a blessed day, a wonderful evening. She's so funny. So God bless you. She's so funny. She's hilarious. Anyways, I love you all. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and I will see you in the morning.